of the Year watch list. Going through highlights from the Big Ten basketball media days, and an Ohio State football, a former Ohio State football legend's son is set to visit Ohio Stadium tomorrow. All that and more in this live episode of Locked On Buckeyes.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Buckeye fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Buckeyes for the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast, and we are live once again on YouTube and Twitter, and I want to thank everyone that's jumping in live to enjoy the entire show. As always, if you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at jstevens07 as you and I will get ready together for the big game tomorrow against the Maryland Terrapins. Also, getting ready for the Maryland Terrapins is Ohio State running back TreVeyon Henderson. One of my favorite things to do in the offseason, or really this portion of the season, offseason, look and see who's on the award watch list. You know, the Chuck Bednarik, I always butcher that name, goes to the best defensive player in college football. The Maxwell watch list or award goes to the best player or the player of the year award in college football. The Doak Walker award goes to the best running back in college football. There's the Joe Moore award, goes to the best offensive lineman in college football. There is an award for everything. I mean, coach of the year in your conference, coach of the year in the country, so on and so forth. And anytime you look in the offseason to see who made a certain watch list, it's amazing. Now, granted, the watch lists are extensive. For the Maxwell Award list, the one we're talking about right now, that has, I think, 80 players that were on the watch list in the preseason. You have to make the watch list before they whittle it down to the semifinalists that will be announced on November the 1st, until they end up announcing the finalist and who wins said award at the end of the season. Well, on offense, there were a couple guys that were already on the Maxwell Award watch list in the offseason, in the summer. Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson. Probably no surprise there. However, right now, they just updated and added 10 more people, 10 more players to their watch list that weren't there in the offseason. One of those players, the one player that's an Ohio State player that is now on said watch list, Mr. TreVeyon Henderson. To date, TreVeyon Henderson has 53 carries for 503 rushing yards, 9.4 yards per pop, which is second best at the FBS level. We talked about his numbers a couple days ago. I believe he has 7 rushing touchdowns. If you go from his touches or yards from scrimmage, he currently is averaging a first down per touch. Let that sink in for you. A first down every time that boy gets the rock in his hands. That's not expected. That's not normal. As well as a guy that doesn't really get the ball, doesn't touch the ball as much as many people think. They want to stay fresh. TreVeyon Henderson, Ryan Day, Tony Alford, Kevin Wilson, they want to keep this young man fresh, as well as other players on this team fresh. So if they can give him 8, 9, 10, 11 carries, maybe 13 or 14 touches in a game, and all of a sudden the game's blown wide open and he comes off the field to keep him fresh for the latter portion of the season, so be it. It's amazing to see the growth and how much this young man has impressed so many people on the football field this year, because he did not have a senior year of high school football. Did not. Played his junior year, his senior year in Pennsylvania, well, not Pennsylvania, I believe he's from Virginia, where they ended up playing the football there where he is from. They ended up not having a fall season. They had a spring season. So instead of staying for a senior year of high school football, he already planned to enroll early at Ohio State. And so that's exactly what he did. He enrolled early at Ohio State, was there for spring ball this year, instead of being with his former high school teammates. And now we're seeing exactly the kind of young man that he is just small glimpses of what we're planning to see over the next 2 years, at least that long. Here are the other players that were added to the Maxwell Award watch list earlier this week. Bryce Young, quarterback at Alabama. Kenneth Walker III, running back at Michigan State. Tanner Mordecai, quarterback at SMU. Bailey Zappi, quarterback at Western Kentucky. That Western Kentucky team has really been better than advertised. They gave Indiana, the Hoosiers, a scare. Now, you say the Hoosiers are not that good. They should not be on the field. They should not be close to being on the field against Western Kentucky. Those Hilltoppers, Western Kentucky, that football team is really good. Jake Haener, quarterback from Fresno State, made the watch list as well. Here are the others. Blake Corum from the team up north there, running back. Sean Tucker from Syracuse. Sean Clifford from Penn State, and then as well as Sam Hartman, quarterback at Wake Forest. He is in good company. That is Mr. TreVeyon Henderson. And you know what? Ohio State's only played 5 games. Here you go, 5 fingers. Ohio State has only played 5 games. So what we might see down the road, think about it. This week, could he be out of the game at halftime? It's possible. Maryland has lost Dante Demas. We talked about that just a day ago with Miss Emily Giambavo. If you missed that preview of tomorrow's game, highly encourage you to go to YouTube or go to your favorite audio podcast app and check that episode out, because we get the good, the bad, what happened against Iowa, the defense, as well as Maryland, touch on so many different topics to help us learn more about Maryland's offense and defense before tomorrow's game. So tomorrow's game number 6, the latter portion of the season, Ohio State plays Indiana and then Penn State. They play Purdue and Nebraska. Not in that order, I don't believe. I believe it's Nebraska and then Purdue and then Michigan State and the team up north at the end of the season. We could very well see another 500, 600-yard performance, 100-yard per game average from TreVeyon Henderson, a true freshman running back, in the latter portion of the season, the final 6 games of the regular season before the Big Ten championship game and the college football playoff. He is that good. He is as good as advertised, or maybe, just maybe, he is better. He's playing better than anybody thought that he would. This is Locked on Buckeyes live on YouTube and Twitter. Thank everyone for jumping in and enjoying the show today. If this is your first time checking out Locked on Buckeyes, I want to say welcome. Or if it's your first time in a long time, I want to say welcome back. Make sure you subscribe and follow Locked on Buckeyes on your favorite podcast listening app, as well as on YouTube. Just search Locked on Buckeyes, find the YouTube page. Make sure you subscribe and hit that bell so you're notified every time a new video goes live. Big Ten basketball media days kind of crept up on me. Not going to lie to you. I'm excited for basketball season. I'm excited for this basketball team to take the court and for us to see some young blood, some transfers, some guys that are on the team that really can wow some people. But at the same time, it kind of crept up on me. I knew basketball season was right on the corner. I saw, I think Adam Jardy from the Columbus Dispatch ended up tweeting out a link to the tip times for the basketball season. 6:30, 8:30. Y'all want to know when Ohio State's basketball is playing so you can plan your winter and early portion of spring properly. So Ohio State's basketball team, Big Ten media days, it's time for, just like the football team, to kick off what's going to be a very fun, exciting, enjoyable, and maybe roller coaster filled season. Now, hopefully not like last season, where you're losing guys like Jimmy Soto's a transfer. You're losing a guy like Abel Porter before the season even starts due to injury. You have to go to the high school ranks and Michi Johnson, who had already committed to Ohio State, to bring him to Columbus and to talk to his family and say, hey, we have a shortage in the backcourt. Would you be willing to allow your son to reclassify to come to Ohio State to play the basketball? Once again, forsaking his senior year of high school. You guys know how I feel about that, but that's what Chris Holtman and his staff thought was best for their team, and the family thought it would be good for their son as well. So the Big Ten basketball media days, a couple highlights, a couple things here. And just like the football media days, Kevin Warren kicked everything off. Now, they did start earlier. The Big Ten basketball media day started at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in Gainbridge Fieldhouse, the new name of the formerly named known arena, Bankers Life Fieldhouse in Indianapolis, Indiana. Kevin Warren kicked some things off. A couple things that stuck out for me when Kevin Warren was speaking to the media at Big Ten basketball media day. He's got to put the basketball in there to differentiate between the football and basketball. Kevin Warren said he will do everything he can to make things equal for women's basketball. A little highlight from the NCAA that may have been overlooked by some. The NCAA said they will use NCAA branding signage for the very first time at the NCAA women's basketball tournament. Let that sink in for you. Now, I don't normally do the whole equal rights, equal conversation, but it's very odd that a tournament that you're putting on does not have your own signage and branding at the tournament on the apparel, on the court. That is odd to me. For the very first time, the NCAA is going to do that in the very next tournament. Kevin Warren spoke about the college football playoff expansion, and he said we will convene again in October to work through issues of a 12-team format. He has interviewed every chancellor, president, athletic director, and head coach in the Big Ten Football Conference. People knock him, and people say Kevin Warren is not the best commissioner. He has definitely not done his best to gain a lot of traction and gain a lot of respect around the conference. However, he knows how important this is, how serious this is. Barry Alvarez, the advisor for football for the conference, is helping him. He's like, look, you got to make sure you talk to these people so we don't do the same thing that happened last year once again. Also, Kevin Warren said there could be an elevated passion around basketball due to conference expansion. And I firmly believe that. I mean, conference expansion, everybody talks about Texas and Oklahoma going to the SEC, 4 teams leaving their conferences, going to the Big 12. So the Big 12 goes from 12, could be losing 10, losing 2, going down to 8, will be at 4 here very, very soon. I really think that this basketball expansion, if the Big Ten does end up expanding and getting some more, let's just say they get Kansas, and we're talking about basketball specifically. Yes, Kansas football is not ideal, but if you add Kansas basketball to the likes of playing Michigan, Ohio State, Indiana, Purdue, Michigan State, all of these schools every single year, that Big Ten basketball tournament, y'all boys will want to be there every single year. Chris Holtmann also spoke, and I liked what he said, and some things stuck out to me when he was speaking at the podium. He has a veteran group led by 3 people: E.J. Liddell, Justin Arns, and Kyle Young. I'm happy Kyle Young is back. Really is going to help the growth and maturing process of Zed Key, and also the experience of Joey Brunk will also assist those young men that are in that second unit as well. Brunk has played at Butler and at Indiana University, so he's seen a couple programs, seen the way a couple people do things. I really think it's going to be a decent addition to the bench for Ohio State. E.J. Liddell, all Big Ten player, All-American, future All-American. It's possible. I do think him going through the pre-draft process for the National Basketball Association will aid him and assist him into being the best he could be during this football season. Chris Holtmann said this is the toughest non-conference schedule he has faced in his coaching career. Some of the opponents that Ohio State will face in their non-conference schedule this year these are going to be in no particular order. Ohio State will face Xavier. That will be in Cincinnati. They face Seton Hall. They will face either Cal or Florida. That'll be in Fort Myers, a tip-off that they're going to be a part of Thanksgiving week. They do face Duke as well. They face Kentucky. They will, and I believe that's all. They're in a tournament, that Fort Myers tip-off, that I do believe is going to be a great test, Thanksgiving week early test for Ohio State. That matchup with Kentucky, get your popcorn ready. Calipari's team has been down. I don't believe they'll be down very much longer. I believe in the offseason, he's been in his lab quiet, working on some things. Ohio State, Kentucky, y'all better be ready, because that game's going to be an amazing, fun game to watch. That game is on a Saturday, December the 18th. That is in Vegas at 5 p.m. Eastern time on CBS, America's most watched Network. A couple more things that stuck out from Big Ten Media Days from Mr. Chris Holtmann. He's excited about the potential in the backcourt after losing C.J. Walker and Dwayne Washington Jr. Both of them did go pro. Jamari Wheeler, the Penn State transfer, is an everyday guy, and Jamari Wheeler has his sights set on some big team accomplishments, but also has his sights set on winning Big Ten Conference Player of the Year. Let that sink in for you. The backcourt that had some issues defensively last year, the backcourt that had some injury issues that all throughout the season, they were trying to figure things out. They were not healthy. Chris Holtmann did talk about how the team does need to be healthy at the end of the season, because if Ohio State's healthy, they don't lose to Oral Roberts. They don't. I understand they laid an egg and they didn't really capitalize late in the game. They don't lose to Oral Roberts if they were healthy, had a clean bill of health the entire season. They don't. Now, the amazing thing is, if they are healthy, could this be a year that Ohio State gets past the first weekend in the NC2A tournament, gets to the Sweet 16 or Elite 8, like many people predicted at the beginning of last season? It's possible. Absolutely. It is possible. It's to be determined. But for this basketball team, for Chris Holtmann, I'm excited to see what the future holds for this team and how good this team will be. This is Locked On Buckeyes Live, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. One more reminder, guys, there will be a live post-game show at the conclusion of tomorrow's game against the Maryland Terrapins. The game is a 12 noon Eastern time kick on Big Fox. Now, it is a big noon kickoff game. However, many of you will assume that Gus Johnson, Joel Klatt, and Jenny Taft will be on the call. That is false. They will be on the call of the Penn State-Iowa game, which kicks off at 4 p.m. Eastern time. I normally could find who's calling the game. I don't know who's calling the game just yet. If you want to know, tweet at me. Normally I could figure that out on Friday morning. I know a couple sites to go through that will post that thing Friday morning. So if you want to know that bad, tweet at me at jstevens07. DMs are open, or email me jstevens317@gmail.com. I know some people love to know who's calling the game before the game does start. There's an Ohio State football legend, and unfortunately is no longer with us. He lost his life in an altercation. He was killed during an altercation after an alcohol-related traffic crash. And his son, 6'3", 250-pound defensive end / defensive tackle at Kaufman High School in Dublin, Ohio. His son is scheduled to play or to visit Ohio State tomorrow. Ohio State's matchup with Maryland, I am excited. Even though Maryland does lose Dante Demas, I do think they do pose numerous threats. I know many of you, or some of you, may not have been excited or happy when Dustin Schutte from Saturday Tradition said Maryland has the best receiving core in the conference. You're like, wait, excuse me? We're going to find out tomorrow exactly how good those guys are. I do believe Denzel Burke, Cam Brown, Sevyn Banks, Lathan Ransom, all those boys, Ronnie Hickman, they will be up to the task to stop and to slow down the offensive attack of the Maryland Terrapins tomorrow. But even though he's out, this game tomorrow against Maryland is going to be amazing, and it's going to be even better because Will Smith Jr., senior son, will be at the game watching Ohio State and taking in the festivities tomorrow. He is so excited. I mean, you're going to the school, you're going to be able to visit the school that your dad played at, that your dad was a player, a four-year letterman. He left Ohio State with 167 tackles, 46 and a half tackles for loss, 23 sacks. He was the 18th overall NFL draft pick. He wore number 93 at Ohio State as well. Why is that important? Because his son, Will Smith Jr., wears Will Smith Sr.'s number 91 in high school. Will Smith Sr. wore number 91 when he played for the New Orleans Saints from 2004 until 2013. He left the Saints with 67 and a half sacks, 20 forced fumbles. He won a Super Bowl against the Indianapolis Colts, a team that I loved, and I was watching that game. As soon as I saw that onside kick to start the second half, I had a feeling things were over, and then Terry Porter pick six off of Peyton Manning. It seemed like he telegraphed and he read Peyton Manning from start to finish of the play, and the rest was history. He did win that Super Bowl, and then he was Will Smith Sr. Will Smith Sr. was a Pro Bowler during the 2006 NFL season. one of my favorite things I've learned and I've watched and enjoyed over the past 5 years is seeing kids, sons of NFL players that I watched play when I was young, play college football right now. Penn State, Joey Porter Jr. Joey Porter used to play in the NFL, and Joey Porter Jr. is, oh my goodness, that boy is good. That matchup against Penn State, October 30th, you will want to know where number 9 is every time he is on the field. Every single time, every single snap, you will want to know where number 9 is, and I guarantee you, C.J. Stroud, Ryan Day, Corey Dennis, Kevin Wilson, they will pinpoint number 9 when they're going through film, saying you have to know where he is. Every time. You have to know exactly where this young man is, because if you don't, it could be a long day for you. Frank Gore Jr., Frank Gore Sr., NFL, Frank Gore Jr. is playing college football right now. I remember earlier, younger, now this is like young, Walter Payton's son, Jarrett Payton, was playing for the Miami Hurricanes, the U, early 2000s. I mean, I love watching, and I never got to watch Walter Payton play. I wish I did. I thoroughly wish I did. Brad Johnson's son that now plays at LSU. Brad Johnson used to play for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, won the Super Bowl winning quarterback for them during that while he was in Tampa Bay as well. It's so much fun. Marvin Harrison Jr. now plays at Ohio State. I mean, it's fun watching guys that I watched play football when I was a kid, and their kids are now playing football either in the NFL or in college right now. Will Smith Jr. One thing I'm going to like and I'm going to be looking forward to seeing about this young man is there's a phrase that comes from a song. I'm just going to be tweeting out, not tweeting out. If he goes to Ohio State, if he raises his stock right now, he currently has offers from Marshall and Miami of Ohio, 2 local schools in the local area, a little drive, but not too far. If he starts to raise his draft stock in Ohio, and the 6'3", 250-pound frame that he has, if he raises his draft stock, keeps going up, and he gets better and better and better, and he finds his way at Ohio State, Jay will be tweeting, stunting like my daddy all week long. Why? Because he is. His daddy stunted at Ohio State and Ohio Stadium, stunted in the NFL in New Orleans. That young man, I would love for him to change his number to 93 if he goes to Ohio State, and then change that bad boy back to 91 once he goes to the National Football. If it happens, I'm projecting, kind of dreaming, wishing, hoping, would love to see that thing happen. But if it doesn't, it's not the end of the world. But I would love to come out here and stay stunting like my daddy when Will Smith Jr., if it happens, plays at Ohio Stadium, plays for the Ohio State Buckeyes in the shoe. And man, these are things that I love. I love seeing the father-son combination. I know my dad played high school basketball Northeast Indiana in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Unfortunately, his school that he played at is now torn down. But if I would have played at my dad's high school, I was born in Fort Wayne, moved to Indianapolis, Indiana when I was 6 years old. Let's just say that I stayed in Fort Wayne, played basketball. I was a basketball player. I was good enough to play for the team. I was the start. I would have tried to wear number 13 like my dad. There's something special about that connection between a number and a school connection, father and son. My dad starting point guard at Elmhurst High School, 5'8", probably about $160, $155, soaking wet. And if I could have been anything like that with my dad when he was playing basketball in Northeast Indiana, I would have been very, very happy. Now, I would have had to deal with all of his former teammates and former teachers saying, your daddy did that. Your dad did this. You ain't as quick as your daddy was. I'm like, hey, y'all, hold on. I'm only a sophomore. Give me a second. Those are the things that are going to happen when there's comparisons. However, there is something special, oh so special, when a father and son are able to play at the same school, and they are able to, the son is able to be on the same ground, the same locker room, the same space that his dad was. His dad was famous at the school. And if Will Smith Jr. down the road progresses and raises his draft stock, he was already at a camp in June at Ohio State. Will he be there next year? Will he continue to get better? I sure hope so, because I would love to see that father-son connection. Will Smith Sr. won a national championship at Ohio State in 2002, and he is a legend. He is a person, a player that everyone at Ohio State, many people at Ohio State will remember for a lifetime. Oh, boy, just let that sink in. Will Smith Jr. after his dad is taken from this world tragically and unfortunately due to an altercation in the street. He says, hey, Dad, I know you're no longer here, but I'm going to stunt like you in the same place. People remember your name for the many amazing plays you made in the horseshoe. Big game tomorrow. I am so excited. I am excited to see TreVeyon Henderson play tomorrow. Add to the award list. Doak Walker award list has not been updated. We'll see if that's going to happen. That goes to the best running back in college football. Will TreVeyon Henderson be added to that? It's possible. He's playing football in a way that he might be added to that list here very, very soon. Big Ten basketball media days. The basketball season will be here before you know it. We'll be talking basketball and football simultaneously for a couple months, as well as, Will Smith Jr., will he be stunting like his daddy in Ohio Stadium down the road? That is to be determined, but I'm glad he is visiting Ohio Stadium during the game tomorrow. You can follow me on Twitter at jstevens07. I thank everyone for coming in, hopping in, and enjoying this another episode of Locked on Buckeyes Live. We will be live at the conclusion of Saturday's game against the Terps. As soon as the game is over, hop in on YouTube, hop in on my personal Twitter page at jstevens07, and you will be able to recap the game, instantly analyze what we watched from your Buckeyes on Saturday afternoon. In the meantime, make sure you check out Locked on Big Ten, because it's the best place to stay up to date and to get all the information on the Big Ten Conference, football and basketball, with its host, Mr. Nate Dickinson. Follow the Locked on Big Ten podcast on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your fine podcasts. Guys, closing up shop. Enjoy your Friday. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday if you're with us live, and get ready for game day. This is going to be so much fun. Go Bucks!